Welcome to F Your Life Up, a podcast about what happens when you blow up the life you had to build the one you actually want. Each week, we share updates from our own journeys, including flipping a house together, and have conversations with other life flippers and experts in reinvention about living without a blueprint and choosing freedom, even when it's effing scary. Hi, guys. I'm your host, Sam. And if you remember, we got Katie and Crystal here with us. How you guys been?
Things are good. I'm getting into a better emotional place, I think.
Just control what you can, because it can be really frustrating if you feel like the life is just happening to you, you know?
Yeah, I'm feeling less bulldozed in my situation.
Good.
So what about you?
Things are just moving slow, I'd say. Slower than I was hoping. And it's part of what I have to also work through personally is like, you know, just being patient in the process and letting it happen. But I guess if I want to start with my update, we can. Part of the reason it's slow is because we're right at the like contract part of the negotiation for acquiring the business. So before I had a letter of intent, which is not legally binding, it just gives me the chance to kind of look at their books and decide whether I want to buy the business. Now that I know I want to buy it, we're getting into the, you know, actual numbers, all of the clauses and stuff, like if this happens, then this happens, and just trying to protect everybody's understanding.
Do you have a lawyer? Like, or do you just kind of draw this up on a Post-it note? Like,
yeah.
How does this work?
So, you know, I have a coach, so he gave me a template. I put together the template, and there are so many great tools online now, like legal tools that you can run it through. So I've done that. And now it's just with them while they're having their lawyer look at it. It's been like 2 weeks though, so I'm getting nervous. I checked in with them last week and I had a really good phone call with them a few weeks ago about it, because part of what's hard about this whole thing is obviously it's their baby, and here I am trying to break it apart down to the numbers and then throw in things to protect myself. And it can kind of just be really sterile, you know, like, well, is she going to turn around and sue us? Is she going to, like, if she doesn't like something, you know? And I just wanted to make sure I had a conversation with them about, you know, how I'm just trying to protect myself, you know, because people can advertise and put things out there in the world that, you know, and make things look a certain way. And then when you get into it, you realize you're not just buyer's remorse, but like you can realize like, oh, it's not how they portrayed it. And so obviously when anybody's selling anything, you're trying to, you know, polish it and make it look
as they say, right? You look under the hood, you got to kick the tires and all that.
Yeah.
But wait, am I missing a step? Can we go back and remind everyone like what business you're buying? I feel like we're talking.
Yeah. So home staging for real estate. So, you know, we've done
the you know, mirrors, the tchotchkes, like all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all down to like, you know, the fake plants and the little jar of rice that you put on your countertop, like literally every little detail.
Do you like the stuff they have?
I do. Yeah. I think they've got a good smattering of stuff. Is it all stuff I would put in my house? No, but I think having a good variety is really important because there are so many different styles of homes in LA, and not every home needs that high-end look. So having the variety will be really nice. And so I've gone through all of that big stuff, right? The obvious stuff, the furniture. Now it's just thinking about, okay, so what could go wrong, and just trying to plan around and protect myself as much as possible if something doesn't get, you know, advertised correctly. So one of the little small details is like the client list. Like they've been protective over that because that's a huge part of the value, and they don't want me just taking the clients, calling them myself, and then not following through on the deal. So
and then are most of the clients, are these realtors, right? Just so I understand, because that's okay. Because it's not the person selling their house, because like you do that very frequently.
Because they're not going to necessarily, like, you're not going to be able to hire them in 20 years, you know, like that's not really a good business model. So when they decide to sell their house again. So
don't forget about me and my company.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, clients the clients are realtors and developers who need the services a lot more often. So and then sometimes they'll just pass me on to their, you know, the homeowners, is my understanding of how it happens. And then from there, it's just a sales pitch. So, so yeah. So just getting into all those little details, it's yucky. I hate it, but having that conversation with them, I think really solidified to us that we're excited about the partnership part of it, which is the first 3 months, doing the training, and then just taking over from there. So I think that's, and then, the other big part of it was, oh my gosh, getting all my money out of retirement. That was scary.
And
talk about that a little bit.
Know that you were really allowed to take money out of your retirement without getting like huge penalties. Like, how do you do this?
So I think we touched on it a little bit before, but basically in order to do it, you're not allowed to touch money until 55 and a half or whatever it is, right? Without there coming like a big tax payout for capital gains, I think. So you could do that and then have the money completely free to do whatever you want with, but like that's, 25 to 30% hit. So it's a lot of what we've saved right out the window. But yeah, if you go through a company, I 100% recommend this. If you're thinking about doing this, go through a company. Mine is Guidant, who is going to help with all of the tax and IRS compliance stuff, because if there's a lot of rules around not benefiting, like personally benefiting from that retirement money, that is not supposed to be used that way. It's supposed to be used in an active business. So, and I have to be active in the business. I can't be passive. It can't be, like an Airbnb necessarily that I throw into and I just sit back and watch the money roll in. They need to see that you're basically a W-2 employee. So, so Guidant basically has been helping to guide me from taking it from my accounts at the city and then putting it into basically, it just last week, all the money got deposited into another 401k. And what happens after that is we do this very specific phone call where I'm trying to make sure that I get this right, but basically the 401k buys the shares in the C Corp. So all the money that I saved is in the 401k, which is where it should be. It's all pre-tax, right? And then the 401k buys shares in my C Corp, and basically the 401k owns my C Corp. So personally, I don't own it at all. It's actually my 401k that owns it. And that's how you avoid that tax penalty. And so it's really important that you stick with certain rules, and Guidant helps to show you, to make sure that you're following the right rules so that the IRS doesn't take your C Corp out from underneath you. So it's a little scary, but I like rules. I actually like structure, and it's very clear. And then I'm going to be paying them like a monthly fee basically to help me maintain that compliance. So I kind of like the structure of it. It might not be for everybody, but
are you allowed to then, is the 401k corporation allowed to then pay you as an employee? Like, are you allowed to make an active income, or does that money have to go back into your 401k?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is a requirement. I have to be a W-2 employee. My other employees don't have to be. I can hire contractors, so I can hire them as I need to, but I have to be, which is good. I don't have to pay myself, by the way. So there's a distinction, right? I have to pay myself what is a reasonable salary. So if the business isn't doing well, I just don't pay myself and I retain that money in the business. But if it is earning, the IRS is going to be expecting to see that I'm paying myself. And if they don't, and they see that I'm trying to warehouse the money, then that could become a problem. Having said that too, what you have to also be careful of with the C Corp is that you get double taxed. That's the only kind of downside. So I would get taxed as a W-2 employee, right, through my income taxes. And then the corporation is going to incur 21% tax. So I have to be really careful about treading that line and making sure that I'm not leaving too much in the corporation and not paying myself enough, and vice versa. But yeah, being able to retain some money to grow the business is something that I have to be really careful about with that double taxation.
Yuck.
Yeah, I know. But it's the price you pay to be able to use that money for cash flow, right? Because sure, I could have sat on it, waited to 55 and a half, continued to try to grow it, or I could take it and try to give myself more cash flow, more money month to month in a business that's operating that way. So, and the hope is eventually, if I get enough return, I can buy those shares back and then have that money back in my 401k, basically. So then I don't have to worry about having a retirement when I am ready to retire. So that's the idea, is eventually I pay it back. I now personally own the C Corp, and there's a 401k there, which, by the way, is another great benefit to this. I'm required for any W-2 employee to offer them a 401k as part of it, so they can then get into it. So they don't have to take it, but it's another really cool benefit to it that not a lot of other companies, small companies especially, even offer. So
cool. All right. So now it's a lot of like hurry up and wait, right?
Pretty much. I'm trying to do some things in the background, like, thinking about the name that I want to use and trying to think about, like, I have to buy a new car soon. So like, how am I going to wrangle that and make sure it's a car that will work for the business? I'm buying new clothes because that's the other part of it. Like, I wore uniforms for 15 years. I didn't have to think about what I was wearing on a day-to-day basis. So it's been kind of fun to go shopping and kind of reinvent myself in that way too, right? Like, what do I want to look like when I go to client meetings?
Oh, what's business Sam look like? What are you going after?
Yeah. Oh, I can't. This is so fun.
We went shopping the other day at
You brought your husband?
Yeah, of course. He loves shopping. And he gives me his opinion. Uniqlo, do you guys know that show or that store?
Nah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's in the mall.
I've never shopped there because I'm not cool with that.
She went to Charlotte Russe, then she went to Claire's.
It's so funny how I've kind of outgrown all that stuff. Like, I used to do, like, what is it? Forever 21. Like, that was just like the go-to. And now I'm like, I think I gotta elevate it. Uniqlo is great. Like, they've got like pretty high-end stuff that's not too expensive, and there's basics. So like, you can kind of layer things and not have to think about it too much, which in the world of me wearing uniforms, having to think how to get dressed every morning is kind of a new
I'm making light and I'm joking, but like, I'm kind of probably find myself in a similar situation. So much of my wardrobe was on camera clothes.
Yeah.
Which kind of looks costumey. And not only is it on camera, but it's on camera rock and roll. So like, I have got so many leather jackets. I've got so many leather cuffs. I've got so many Metallica t-shirts and Sublime t-shirts and skinny jeans with holes in it and black boots that zip up, up to your knee and everything, which is all fun and games. But like, at a certain point, you're like, then you walk into a different job setting that may not be rock and roll. And you're gonna be like, wow, this girl really does like Iron Maiden.
So I guess from that perspective, then what are you thinking about?
So obviously, listen, my history is as a rock and roll journalist, producer, executive in the music world. And so I've gotten involved with this great charity. It's called Cancer Can Rock. It's essentially, we take musicians, amateur, but good musicians who are battling cancer, and we raise the money to give them an opportunity to go into a recording studio and have the experience. So we get a recording studio. We have a producer. We've got guitar. They need a guitarist. We get them a guitarist. If they need a banjo player, we get them a banjo player. If they need backup singers, that are good in doo-wop, we get them those things.
So it's kind of like Make-A-Wish for rock stars.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
So they go into the studio, they record their song, and then we also have a videographer there. So then they get like a live music video as well. So they get this experience, this day of kind of forgetting about cancer, if you will, if you can. And then they have this tangible song and music video to enjoy and share with their family and friends, whatever the outcome is with their cancer. So I've been working with this organization. It's been awesome. I've been interviewing because then they also get a rock and roll interview afterwards. So then I interview them because, it's cool. I've also interviewed, Ted Nugent, Tommy Lee, Robert Plant. And now I'm interviewing Bob, who has cancer, from Arizona, which is, kind of a fun thing that they get to have that experience. But we also, the organization started working with another organization. We kind of semi-merging. It's called Folk Cancer, the Kate McGarrigle Project. And it was started by Rufus Wainwright and his sister, Martha Wainwright. So I've been working with them. And if you know anything about, the Wainwrights, they're I mean, fantastic musicians, well respected. And so it's just been really nice to kind of have these monthly calls with Martha and Rufus and, you know, using my skill set to help elevate a charity. So that's kind of what I've been doing right now.
I think that's awesome. I think one of the things that
I
through
love
my
that.
journey at my job that has been buoyed me in the low times was having this volunteering that I would do, you know, whether it was through the zookeeper organization that I was with or doing it at school or whatever it takes, like just to feel like you're putting yourself out there and staying busy. And yeah, hopefully it leads to something for you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it will just remain as that volunteer work that I kind of needed, because I had for a while, you know, when people say, well, you know, what job are you looking for? And I kept thinking, I just feel like I really want to give back. I want to do something, but you know, that doesn't really pay well. And so it's like, okay, now I have figured out how to make time for a charity and an organization that's bigger than myself in my schedule, so that when I do get my next professional job, I will already have this time and space carved out in my life. And that's nice. So I won't have the excuse anymore of like, oh, I'm just so busy. Not today, not today. So now I have the organization. And I think that that's a nice way to kind of reverse engineer sharing my time with others.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll counteract whatever badness LinkedIn makes you feel. Yeah, I want to go back to that for a minute though. Aren't there like AI tools now that companies are using to like run through everybody's like resumes and stuff? So like you can't even interact with a real person sometimes. Like, is there any solution to that? Like also putting your stuff through an AI chatbot?
Absolutely.
Or I mean, really?
Absolutely. And I started doing that. You know, I kind of have multiple versions of my resume because, again, you know, I wore so many hats. I have my executive version of my resume. I have my producer version. I have my hosting version. I have my showrunner version. I have my live producer version, right? So I have these different versions, you know, internal comms, all these things. And then when a job gets posted and they put the job description, I will go into chat and say, here is, you know, here's my resume, and I pick the one specific to this job, you know, the comms one, if you will. And then I say, here's the job description. Can you make sure my resume is using similar buzzwords that, you know, and so because I say, you know, internal comms with cross, you know, platform, blah, 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 they maybe say it differently. So they make sure that they then change my wording so that it is identical to that one. It feels really gross and dirty, but everyone's doing it, kids. So come jump off the bridge with me. And
this feels like so different than, you know, years ago. It was like you went on Craigslist to get a job. And somehow in the last like 10 years, it's changed. Like last time I was job hunting, like LinkedIn was like a dorky thing, you know? And then come to find out, like everybody's on LinkedIn and you have to be, you know? This has been fascinating hearing like this journey.
No, I mean, and everyone is on LinkedIn. Reese Witherspoon has a LinkedIn profile. I mean, she ain't doing it herself. I think just recently Taylor Swift joined like LinkedIn, you know? So it's interesting that these celebrities, you know, that own businesses are now doing it as well. And it's funny to see, you know, some of them, you know, with only like 10,000 followers. And you're like, how does Reese, you know, it's funny because they're growing that platform. So
it's becoming more just social media.
Excuse me while I follow Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
All right, enough about me.
Guys, I gotta go.
Crystal, what's your latest update?
Yes, I have a very big update. I have a milestone in my real estate career. I had my first expired listing.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Yeah. So an expired listing is what happens when a house, you know, when you create a listing and you make a listing agreement with a seller, you say like, this will expire in 3 months or 6 months or a year or however long, you know, it's typically like 6 months. So then when you upload it on MLS, you say like, this is the date it expires. And if it doesn't sell by this date, then the listing, it's off the market. And so that's what happened. I had a listing on the market for, I guess it was 6 months, and it didn't sell. And so it expired.
Oh, what's the next step? I mean, what does the homeowner say? Like,
I can only have like a sense of humor about it because I know I didn't do anything wrong. I think
mhm,
like old Crystal, like I'm a recovering, perfectionist and achievement seeker, and you can't help like when a house sells that you've been marketing, like it feels good. You feel like you've done a good job.
mhm,
And so I know that I did everything right in this scenario. It's just in this case didn't work out because the seller had a number in mind and it was not a realistic number. And that was that. The market like was speaking for itself. So um, it's just pulled off the market, and seller's sort of taking a beat and trying to decide what she wants to do. And um, I think old me would have been like devastated by this. I would have felt so bad about myself. I would have felt like, why, I couldn't get this house sold. It would have like really sunk to a low. And that's the thing in
mhm.
real estate is like, there's really high highs and there's really low lows. Um, but I didn't, I was able to kind of just like, okay, like it's okay that this happened.
Mhm.
I knew it wasn't my fault. So it kind of like, it ended up being kind of almost a good thing for me because I feel like I'm going through this growth.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I was actually proud of myself the way I handled it and didn't like sink low.
We're all doing things that are very forward facing, right? Like, Katie, you're literally like a host, you're literally putting like art out into the world and hoping people like it. And then, yes, the also you're doing the job hunting thing right now, which is very vulnerable. And then for you, Crystal, too, like you're trying to give people advice on what is the right way to sell a house, and if they don't take it, they don't take it, and it can feel like, well, am I wrong? I mean, what, does it feel like that? Like I know when I go to advise a client in my future business, like if we disagree on something, it's going to feel like, am I wrong? Should I listen to them? Should I hold the line? Like how do you navigate, both of you, how do you navigate that line when it happens?
Yeah. Okay. So listen, somebody the other day, I was talking about real estate and she said, I don't think I could do it because I'm just like not very good at sales. And what I said to her was, I don't think that this is a sales job. This is a people job. This is you're a therapist and a psychologist, and a coach, but I don't feel like I do very much sales aside from like selling myself, right? Because I sort of
Mm-hmm.
am my own product, right? Come work with me. Um, so, on one hand, you really have to learn how to sort of navigate those tricky conversations with
Mhm.
people. And ultimately, it's sort of free because most of the time the decisions are not in my hands. It's a
Mm-hmm.
dream when we get a client that really does listen to us and lets us drive the transaction and lets us do what we're being paid to do. But most of the time, clients have their own, are bringing in their own general thoughts based on what they're reading in the news or what their dad in Ohio is saying. And, we have to sort of
It's
walk that
me. It's
line.
me. You guys truly, like, I constantly, like, when we're not doing the podcast, I'm always pinging Crystal with questions. I'm like, hey, I read this article in the New York Times. Hey, my dad sent this to me. Just so you know, the sky is falling. And Crystal's like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
I would be your nightmare client.
Stop reading that. Yeah. It's fun. You really aren't, because it happens. It's so refreshing when clients aren't like that and they like really are trusting the process. But that's part of what my job is to do, which is funny because when I
Mm-hmm.
got into real estate, I thought it was going to be all about like looking at houses, and it's not just that's really like interacting with clients. And then the other piece of it is like, leaving. We all had jobs in the past that like we got up, we did our job, we had a boss, we got a paycheck, and there
Mm-hmm.
was very little we could do, in general to like get ourselves in trouble or to mess up in terrible ways. But now we're all in these worlds where like we're very dependent on other people
Yeah.
for if we're going to get money, how we're going to feel about ourselves. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of rejection in real estate, in my experience. Maybe, it's just me, but yeah, this happens to everybody. Like, I can't tell you how many times a year somebody in my sphere chooses a different agent over me. And this happens to every agent I know. Agents who've been in the business for 30 years, their best friends go with somebody else. I mean, that happens. That's like one level of rejection, you know.
Yeah.
You're learning that so you can only control so much. And so one thing that I've learned, it was harder when I first started out in every business I've had. Like if business wasn't going well, or if clients dropped off or something happened, I always felt so low because I feel so high when I'm achieving, you know, when I've like hit a goal, or I've sold a house, or I've, you know what I mean? Or I've made X amount of money. And what I've had to learn in this career, and as I've gotten older, is not to tie my self-worth or my emotions to external factors. Like if somebody goes with a different realtor, that's okay. They're on their own journey, and I know I'm a good agent, and I know I'm a good person. You know,
on to the next, right? Is that the way to get over it? Just on to the next, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Listen, it still stings, and there's still times I've been burned, but you know, it's on to the next. There's plenty of houses.
All right, guys. Well, I think that was a really great update. I know that we're going to also maybe get into our flipping situation here soon, but just a small update on that. We're going to do a farm, right, Crystal?
Yeah. Okay. So since we last talked, we had to really get our ducks in a row so that if a deal came along, a house, and when I say deal in a house, if a house comes along, that we can actually write an offer and buy it. So there was all this kind of behind the scenes admin type stuff that we had to do. So we formed an LLC. We're going to buy the property in an LLC. So we formed that LLC. We've opened a bank account. And so like those are the two major things we had to do so that if we find a house that we want to flip, we can actually write an offer and buy it. So we've got our lenders lined up. We have a sort of assortment of lenders that we can go with. So so that was the first thing. And so the next thing is like, we need to get a deal. If anybody out there is listening and you have an ugly house that you want to sell to us, we are ready to buy. Okay. We're gals with money. We're ready to buy.
Yeah,
so,
we're all ready to go.
So that's what we're doing now. We're ready to go. Yeah. So I think what we're going to do next is maybe send out a letter to our target neighborhood and see if anybody wants to sell their house to us.
Yeah, it's all actually happening. I mean, we've been talking about it for so many months. It's exciting to hear it coming to fruition. So we're excited to continue to share that journey with you guys as we go through this podcast episodes and through our flipping and life updates. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Follow us on F Your Life Up Podcast on all social media platforms, and send us any questions to fyourlifeuppod@gmail.com. See you on the next episode.